back to the renewed Faces of Faith television program, now online at www.indyfaith.org, www.indyfaith.org. Well, this is program 3. We're really rolling here, and today we are blessed to have with us the Reverend Dr. Felipe Martinez. Dr. Martinez is the Associate Executive Presbyter for the Whitewater Valley Presbytery. If you don't know what that means, it's the Presbyterian Church in the Reformed tradition. And they're right here in Indianapolis and in the neighboring states and all over the country, even the world. So we welcome Dr. Martinez. Welcome.
Thank you.
So let's learn a little bit about you. Who are you? What do you do? And then we'll talk about some issues that are really current right now.
Sure. Well, I'm a Presbyterian pastor. I've been a Presbyterian pastor for 20 years. Wow. And I actually came from Mexico. I was born and raised in Mexico, but I have been in the States since 1981. And I happily can say that now I'm a U.S. citizen.
All right.
And my ministry has taken me to Illinois, where I was a parish pastor for 10 years of a small rural congregation. And now I'm a pastor here in the Presbyterian Church, in the Presbytery of Whitewater Valley, but not with any pastoral responsibilities, rather with administrative responsibilities over the 62 churches that we have in the Presbytery. Do basically consulting in the area of mission, Hispanic ministry, and some work with the community ministry.
So, Felipe, we're so glad for the work that you're doing. One of the issues that I know you know is on everybody's mind is this matter about immigration reform. So we'd like to know, from your perspective, someone who is knowledgeable, someone who has relationships in this area, say a little bit about this issue at the state level and the federal level, from a pastor's heart, from a person of faith. What do you think about this debate?
Well, I mean, I think it's very important for us to talk about immigration and how the church is connected to the immigrants that are in our community. I think that part of the debate that happens is that there's this notion that we are a nation of laws. And so there's this very distinct sense that, if people break laws, then they need to be held accountable for them. And I'm all for that. I think that there's a lot of confusion, however, about what that all means. And so one of the things that I say is we ought to talk about being a nation of laws, but we also need to talk about being a nation of justice. And I think that in that sense, we need to concentrate on what are the issues of justice related to immigration. Right now, what we have in the United States is a situation where we're a nation of immigrants. And a portion of those immigrants currently came into this country without the proper documentation or overstayed a particular kind of visa, and now the visa is expired and they stayed. The reality is that the very large majority of those folks who are here undocumented are fulfilling a role in the life of society. They are working, they are taking care of a parent, they are doing something that is integral to the work of our country. And what's interesting is that our society sort of turns a blind eye to some of the things that are done by immigrants, some of the work that they perform, because in a way we benefit as a society from their work. And so their hard labor, which is sort of in the shadows, if you will, ends up benefiting the society. And sometimes, because of political reasons or other things, or maybe because unemployment is higher than is expected or desired, the first group that gets pointed at is the illegal immigrants, the undocumented immigrants, as though they have created a problem. The reality is people don't come to the country without knowing that there's going to be a job for them. And people don't stay in the country if there are no jobs for them. As a matter of fact, some of the undocumented immigration from Mexico has actually declined because Mexico as a country is doing a little bit better economically, and so there's more job opportunities for folks down there. Nevertheless, there are 11+ million folk in the United States from all over the world, primarily from Latin America, but from all over the world, who are here undocumented. And so the country is trying to figure out, what do we do about that? And so at the federal level, one of the things that has been talked about and I think needs to be taken care of is the fact that sometimes young children are brought by their parents to this country. As the parents are coming undocumented, they bring their children, again, for a search for a better life because there are opportunities here. The children go to school, the children, get educated and all these kinds of things. They themselves don't know any better, in the sense of they might not even know that they're here undocumented. They just know that they came. They might have had no memory of the country where they came from. But then there comes a problem, because as they seek to go to higher education, then they realize that their immigration status is a big barrier. And so there's something called the DREAM Act, which is something that Senator Lugar, who is a Republican, and Senator Durbin and others who are a Democrat, have been pushing for, which would allow for these children of undocumented immigrants to have their status regularized. In other words, there is no such thing as getting legal. If you're here with an undocumented status, it literally takes an act of Congress to remedy that, to change that, to do something about it. And so that is an opportunity for us to say to those children who are bright and who are motivated and who feel like they are Americans, you have an opportunity to be here. We want to draw from you your gifts so that you can be a part of this community, this society, and be helpful. And so I think that that's one of the arguments, or one of the bills that should be an easy sell, as far as saying we have bright, talented, motivated people who want to be a part of this community. The larger sense of the immigration reform is one where we really need to talk about how do we do just comprehensive immigration reform. It isn't just about sealing the borders. It isn't just about making people here who are illegally here, making them legally here. It isn't definitely about deporting 11, 12 million people. It's about recognizing that we have done something as a society that we have set up a system where in the shadows people help and benefit our community. And now we have to say, look, there has to be a way in which we make you come out of the shadows so that you can be fully a part of society, so that you can fully contribute and do all this for the sake of being a country, for the sake of being together. That's difficult politically. But the church stands firm in saying, we stand on the side of people who are the poor, the marginalized. We stand on the side of justice. And so while there might be some laws that are on the books, we work as the church, we work with politicians, we work with others in those positions to say, what is the just thing to do? The Bible calls us to be welcoming to the immigrant, to the sojourner, and not just in passing, but to really take them into the life of our community. And the reality is that the United States has a long history of doing that. It's just that throughout the history of the United States, there have been some pushback as to what exactly does that mean.
As recent as a couple months ago, a group called Christian Churches Together, which is made up of Catholics, U.S. Catholic Conference of Bishops, World Vision, Sojourners, a lot of evangelical groups, Holiness, Pentecostals, and Mainliners and Orthodox have come together to say, similarly, what I thought I heard you saying just a few moments ago, that the churches particularly have a particular role to play in terms of pastoring God's people, regardless of where they are, who they are, etc., etc. As you look at the landscape and you look at the religious landscape, the faith community, what kinds of issues do you see emerging at the congregational level where people are having to wrestle with this issue? It's one thing to talk about policy and talk about laws and talk about all these boundaries, but talk about the everyday experience of a pastor who has a mission heart, who cares about his or her parishioners. Talk about the real, where the rubber meets the road for the pastor. Well, what are pastors experiencing out there?
Right. I think that when pastors become aware of, let's say, for example, that somebody has been coming to their church, and then they go to the pastor and begin to explain some of the problems that they're facing, some of the challenges. Say, for example, a child who can't go to college because they're here undocumented, and who was brought in as a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. The pastor's eyes begin to get open because they don't understand fully the complexity of the issue. They might know the headlines of the issue, but once they get to see the human suffering and the human reality, this is something that's a real challenge. And so what happens is people become passionate about the issue because they want to help this person who is a talented person and want to be supportive of it. And so, because they become passionate about it, they become advocates, not just for the individual, but then become advocates for larger reform. Bill Hybel from Willow Creek Community Church in the outskirts of Chicago had one such experience. Prominent evangelical pastor, begins to have a realization that, wow, this is really big. And so his church has really come out and saying, we support comprehensive immigration reform. And again, he became aware of it because of individual people who were coming up to him, part of his church. His heart just overflowed with the desire to be helpful.
Pastor Reverend Martinez, thank you so much for your comments. If you want to learn more, there is a statement at Christian Churches Together, www.christianchurchestogether.org, that talks about the nature of this big landscape that's coming together around this pastoral issue. Dr. Martinez, thank you for what you do and for your comments today. Go to www.indyfaith.org and watch our show and learn more about what's happening today in the capital area of Indiana. I'm Angelique Walker-Smith.